This is World Awakenings, the fast track to enlightenment with your host, Karl Gruber. World Awakenings is a podcast dedicated to opening your mind, your heart, and your eyes to the fact that the world's population is now, more than ever, awakening to all things spiritual, metaphysical, and enlightening, and just how they play an all-important role in our daily life. So join Karl on this enlightening experience as he interviews metaphysical and spiritual experts to discuss, debate, and delve deeply into the hows and whys of this worldwide awakening. We welcome you to the World Awakenings podcast. Before we start, we'd like to tell you about a special ebook written by the show's host, Karl Gruber. The 3 Pillars, a simple 3-step process to manifest positive and permanent change in your life. The concise 32-page 3 Pillars ebook will teach you how to become a successful and consistent co-creator of your life path with the law of attraction. Yes, you can manifest the life you truly desire, and the ebook is absolutely free. Simply go to Karl's website, karlgruberlifecoach.com. That's KARLGRUBER lifecoach.com. Click on the header title About Me and get the free download today. Karl Gruber's free ebook, The 3 Pillars, will positively change your life.
Hey, this is it. You found it, and you are in the right place at the right time with me, Karl Gruber, your host of this podcast, World Awakenings, the fast track to enlightenment. Hey, welcome. And as usual, before we head off to meet our featured guest today, I would absolutely love to have you take a moment to click that subscribe button below so that you will never, ever miss a single episode of this show. And thank you. My featured guest today is a woman who calls herself a confidence coach, Kate Heartsong. Kate's personal journey of self-discovery and transformation began in 1997 when she overcame some of life's greatest challenges, including childhood trauma. Now, utilizing her compassion, listening, understanding, teaching, and coaching, she helps her clients gain their empowerment and self-confidence. Now, she is also the author of 2 books, Humanity's Cry for Change, and also Deeply We Are One. Not only is she a Reiki energy master, but a certified life coach and a certified personal financial coach, too. So, Kate, welcome to World Awakenings.
Oh, it's such a delight to be here, Karl. Thanks for having me.
Oh, this is awesome. Yeah, I just love talking to people like you. That's what this show is all about. But, I've got to ask right up front, what the heck is a confidence coach?
A confidence coach is someone who helps people through the modality of life coaching to really just gain confidence, to really recognize the good of who they are, to really just embrace their greatness and just build higher self-esteem. Yeah.
Well, and as you and I, we're both life coaches, and we both know that almost every client we encounter has self-worth problems and definitely needs to build up their self-confidence. But before we follow up more on that, if you wouldn't mind, I would like to find out a little bit more about you. Would you be willing to share with us that journey of your self-discovery and transformation that began in 97 and overcoming childhood trauma?
Oh, absolutely, Karl. It's precisely because of that journey, and I'll describe it briefly. It's precisely because of that journey I have so much passion for the work I do, which is actually the very reason that I am a confidence coach. Very briefly, I grew up in a very traumatic childhood. My parents meant the best for us. They did the best they could, but there were some dynamics that caused a lot of trauma. And also, I actually, as a curious toddler at the age of 2, I actually fell out of a window about a story and a half high, and that caused a lot of hearing loss.
Mm.
So I had a lot of shame. I really thought something was wrong with me as a child. I mean, what did I know at 2 and 5 and 7 years old? And I had a lot of just issues with confidence, no self-esteem. And so between those two, just briefly, around the age of 20, but then especially around 1997, I just had enough frustration and so much anxiety. I had enough of that. So I decided to grab the bull by the horns and just make a big change in my life. I explored personal development classes, a lot of personal development books, psychotherapy, the whole 9 yards. And bit by bit, I was able to build up my confidence and to really come to realize I am worthy and that I am a good person. So it took a while, but it was possible. Gosh, Karl, when I think about where I was, it seems like 5 lifetimes ago, with the depth of low self-esteem and just so much shame, to where I am today. And it's so important to recognize and embrace our greatness, which is what I have done, but not from a place of being egotistical, but just from a place of recognizing the good that I can offer. And that's why I'm a confidence coach, because I really want people to know that they are worthy and they can step up to the plate, and it's possible to heal.
Well, that's interesting that your personal spiritual awakening and journey of your self-worth was in the mid to late 90s, because that was actually really, really good time. I had a similar journey too back, really the 90s is when I started what I latched on to, what I called positive possibility power thinking. You had these people like the Wayne Dyers of the world were really coming out huge back then, and the Tony Robbins of the world and Deepak Chopra's and on. And everybody started latching on to Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich, even though it had been published since the 30s. So that was a great time. But for you, I can understand, since you are a great confidence coach because you've been there, done that. You understand what it's like to come out of that. And that's probably a big help when you coach somebody on that.
Absolutely. As you well said, it's just so much better there's a depth of understanding when we've been there, done that, when we are truly walking in someone else's moccasins. We can really get that sense and understanding. And, as you will know, you being a life coach, coaching is an incredible modality to help others. And as you also know, there's a spectrum of some people need more help than just from a life coach. Depends on the depth of trauma. But there are so many opportunities for healing that are out there, and so much that we can do within ourselves to build that confidence. And, bit by bit, one goes far. I heard that old Peruvian quote years ago, and I love it. I think it's bit by bit, one goes far, or step by step, one goes far. But it does take a little time, but it's possible. Yeah.
Well, that's interesting too. In when I do get ready to coach somebody, I have a coaching agreement, and I let them know right in that it says, I am a life coach. I am not a therapist. And that if they feel that they need more than that they should seek professional, psychotherapy.
Absolutely.
I'm there to help them, just like you do, to help them empower themselves and remember their divine inherent power that they forgot they had. So, I really, I've been enjoying reading your website and your book. And I just read on your website blog, and this blog is called Choose Love. And in it, you talk about getting into a place in your head where you're in a calm, peaceful, loving place of connection with your creator. You go on to state that when you're when you're so in the present moment, such as dancing, painting, or other creative activities, that you're in that amazing space and time seems to disappear. Now, a lot of researchers call that type of experience being in the flow with your purpose and natural abilities. Would you be able to elaborate more on this?
Absolutely. It's a big, big topic. But in essence, it really has to do with being in alignment with the true essence of who we are. Mm-hmm. All of us are actually divine, as you well know, we're divine beings in a physical body. When we can be in a place of present moment or in the presence of what we love to do, we're really so much more in alignment with the true essence of who we are. And I know all of our listeners here will agree. We've all had times of like just being in that place of bliss or just happy, so on top of the world. And it feels so good. Energetically, it feels good. Emotionally and mentally, it feels good. And that's the time we feel like we're really in the flow, like you said, in the flow. And in fact, energetically, we really are in the flow because we are, the way I like to describe it, we're like in alignment with the all that is, or God, or the creator, whatever term we use, source. We are actually in that alignment. And when we're in that alignment, that's where the bliss and joy comes in, and just living more authentically.
Yeah, I love the term flow because I've studied this a fair amount. There is this pretty well known in the field of psychology. He's got this long Polish name, Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, and the spelling. And he wrote the book Flow. And he is actually one of the premier teachers of what is now an accepted study called positive psychology. I know Dr. Martin Seligman at University of Pennsylvania and Csikszentmihalyi are the two premier people on it. But it's exactly like you said. When you're in flow, for me, when it's running, when I go out running, I'm just in the flow of being there in the physical activity, and also when I'm writing, the same thing too. I'm in the flow. Yeah. But it could be whatever happens to be your life purpose. I think professional athletes experience this quite a bit. Like LeBron James is driving down the lane going to the hoop, and I've read many times from athletes that say they don't hear anything, they don't see anything as they're moving. It's like in slow motion. It just unfolds, and they're completely in their purpose. And we all have that, right?
Yes, we do. And it's a matter of well, for some to really make the intention. I think intention is so powerful. You know, it's so easy to get distracted and so easy for most of us to be worried about the future or having regrets about the past. But, you know, when we're in a place of mindfulness or awareness, we can actually bring ourselves into that place of flow much easier. It takes practice and sometimes discipline. But when we can really be in that place, this is almost like a place of eternity, of the timelessness. And as you probably will know, dear Eckhart Tolle, the author of Power of Now, describes the power of being in the present moment. And it is such a powerful way to reduce anxiety. It's not that it's going to solve problems, but if we can be in that place of more centeredness and balance, that can bring us into actually, as you probably know very well, and I'm sure your listeners do, when we're in that place of balance, we can think more clearly, and then solutions to situations and problems come to us more easily.
Yeah, so that happens in meditation.
Yes, that too. Absolutely.
Well, it's interesting because, as my listeners and viewers well know, I'm a huge student of A Course in Miracles.
Oh, yeah.
And they talk about explicitly that there is no time. The past doesn't exist. The future doesn't exist. There is only now, in the Course in Miracles calls it the holy instant. And you can't be anywhere else except in the now. We just
Yeah.
trained, most of our thoughts are stemmed from past experiences, and most of it is crap,
Yeah. Yeah.
trauma and all that stuff. And yeah, so what you teach is really key. And with that, since we're on the topic of what you do, and your writing is awesome. So I've spent the last couple of weeks reading through your book, Humanity's Cry for Change. I still haven't completely finished it, but I read too many books at once. But can you tell us how this book, Humanity's Cry for Change, came, and how you wrote that book and what the message is?
I will be happy to share. I feel so honored to be the messenger of this book. About maybe 20 years ago, during meditation, I discovered that I was receiving incredibly profound insights. And then I started, thinking maybe I should write these down. So during meditation, I would take a pad of paper and a pen. And with my eyes closed, I would just start writing these incredible bits of wisdom and words of advice, some of it for me, but as it developed, it became like words of wisdom to create books. There was no way I could keep this information to myself. So I realized I have this, I'm just so grateful for this gift of channeling spirit words from spirit that is to be shared. So in 2010, I published my first book, Deeply We Are One, from the writings, and it was edited professionally. And in essence, this is about how we can recognize our greatness. And through that, we better recognize that there is an interconnection of life. And then a few years later, I started again getting incredibly profound insights. And that actually over about a 3-year period. And that became my second book, Humanity's Cry for Change. And the subtitle is Actions You Can Take to Create a New Earth. So again, there's no way I could keep this information for myself. So I published it a year and a half ago. And in essence, this book really talks about how can we better navigate these uncertain times? Also, what is the reason for these challenging times? Why is there so much upheaval happening? And it also talks a little bit about what we can do on an individual basis. There's a small section that describes what businesses can do so that they can become more socially conscious. And a little section also about what groups can do. So in essence, it's how can we awaken and create this new earth?
And just a little while ago, before we got on here, I was looking at the section in that book where you have some exercises that the reader can do in order to bring them into alignment with that teaching.
Yes, there's many exercises. They're more on a simple level, which I personally love. There's so many tools and techniques available, and many of your listeners and viewers will know this. And there's something to be said also about using simple exercises. So, for example, one exercise is how can we better raise our vibration? And what that really means is, as you know, everything and everyone is made of energy. Quantum physics has shown that at the most basic level, everything is energy. And because of this, well, we're all vibration. Energy vibrates at a certain frequency. So lower emotions, lower vibrational emotions such as anger or hate, they're more dense, they're slower. And many people are in fear. Many people have upsets and challenges, especially with the pandemic that's happened. And then all the other things happening on the planet. But something that we can do to raise our vibration into higher levels of emotional vibration, like love or kindness or respect, what we can do, one simple thing to do to raise our vibration is just to be in a place of gratitude. Like there's so many things, 10 things, 100 things during the day we can be grateful for. I am grateful I can even get out of bed, or that my toaster always works, or my car starts, or the friends I have, or the ability to be here with you, Karl, and to empower others to know that change can happen. So that's one way to raise our vibration, is to be in a state of gratitude. And then there's other exercises too. Did you want me to share another one?
Yeah, sure. Absolutely.
All right. I don't know if I have a favorite, but this is one of the ones on the top of my list. And that is to focus on the heart space and get into your love essence. For some people, this is very easy to do. For others, it's not. But if we can go into a place of appreciation, maybe for something in nature, or appreciation for a dear friend, that'll help us to open our heart. So perhaps a short meditation, or even just feeling more than thinking, feeling the place of appreciation, that helps us to open our hearts and into that place, that precious place of the love essence, because love is such a high vibration, and that'll help raise our essence and our vibration.
Well, and talking about, you're talking so much about vibration, boy, you're in complete resonance with me. I'm actually certified law of attraction life coach. And
oh, yes, yeah.
the first thing we learn is everything is energy, everything vibrates. And so it is just exactly true what you say. And as your feelings, your emotions raise to a higher, happier, loving place, so too does the energy, the frequency of the vibration raises to a higher level too, the better. And those other lower emotions of fear, hate, anger, etc., guilt, shame, those are low vibrating, and they're just energy sucking from your being,
Absolutely.
For everything I've read in your book, Humanity's Cry for Change, all I can say is that it closely, if not exactly, matches the truth, love, oneness, and connectedness of all that, is that many of the channeled ascended masters and teachers that I have interviewed right on this podcast, here on this show, talk about and teach. So the way you describe it, would you say that you channeled that information?
Mm-hmm. And I'm sorry, what was your question?
Well, I'm just curious. I mean, if that's how the book came through.
Oh, yes.
Was it?
Yes, it was all channeled.
Yeah. Did your guides identify themselves, or just as love?
Excellent question. Many years ago, I asked, well, who is speaking to me? And what came through is the name Archangel Michael. Mm-hmm. But also, it isn't only Archangel Michael, it is many other beings. And I'm very honored also. One of them is Mary Magdalene. I don't usually share this, but I feel I really want to share this with the audience. I've been so blessed. So several beings all kind of, I don't know what they do on their side, coalescence or however, I don't know how it works. But my being an open, receptive channel, receiving from Archangel Michael and the other beings.
That is so awesome. And I didn't know if you knew, but I have interviewed a number of ascended masters and teachers here on the show. I've had the council on. I've had a fella, a Syrian being. She's coming back on, show. And others, Seth and Tam, on and on. So it's been really interesting to talk to these beings. Talk to Kuan Yin through a lady named Marina Ellen. That was really interesting too.
Oh my gosh. What an honor to have that.
Oh my gosh.
Their communication. It's so wonderful to help the planet through that way.
Oh gosh, yeah, you're so fortunate to have the loving teachers like that. We all do. We don't all listen.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, and we all do, like you say, we have the ability to do this, but it just requires having a quiet mind and intention and openness. And I also learned for myself to have trust. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
when I first started channeling, I wasn't sure, is this ego? Is this ego or is this really happening? And I had to work on my trust. But the key that helped me to distinguish between ego and spirit, or in this case, ego and the wonderful words of Archangel Michael, is the words from our guides are very loving and kind, and they don't push. They're can often be very matter of fact, but very gentle and kind. And then, of course, ego tends to be very demanding,
Mm-hmm.
and you should do this, and you need to do this, and this is really important, and you have to do this. Well, that's ego, and that's definitely not the guidance. So that's how helped me to then ease into more of the trust,
Mm-hmm.
and that more and more channeling happens. And I'm grateful to say it happens so much easier today than it did back then.
And that is exactly what your book is like: loving, gentle, and kind. And
Thank you.
yeah, it
Yeah.
really is. It's just like this gentle, warm breeze of love that
Oh,
gradually comes over your heart and mind as you read it. I mean, it is so in resonance and in tune with well, actually, that's one of the questions. I would like to dive deeper into your connection with the creator, with all that is. How do you think you came to access and understand the true divinity of and oneness of all that is? Is it just through your experience of your, opening up and opening your heart and mind up to receiving it?
that is one of them, opening your heart and mind to receive. For me, and I really believe this is unique for every individual, but for me, it is the intention and the knowing that I am not the one in control.
Mm-hmm.
I am so, yes, I'm a spiritual being. I chose to come on this planet in this physical form, but the true essence of who I am is really part of God. And when I can get myself, or another way to put it, if I can get my ego out of the way and be more in alignment with the true essence, this is what happens. And how do I get myself in alignment? I meditate. Meditation really is a big key in helping. And I've done this for over 25 years. So it does help. Excuse me. It has a wonderful cumulative effect. Meditation gets us into a different level of consciousness. And it's the higher level of consciousness and a higher vibration that actually helps us to access the all that is, or source, or God. So for me, when I'm in meditation, I will be able to access that. And now, even during the day, I make a conscious awareness of keeping my vibrations high, keeping my place as much as possible in a place of love and kindness and respect. Now, I will add, Karl, that doesn't mean I ignore upsets or challenges. We all have them. They do come. And I acknowledge them, I process them through, and that releases through processing in a healthy way. But then I am better able, after I've done that, to go back to balance and center. Yeah, it's different for everyone, but I would say basically being as much in the present moment as possible has helped me a lot to stay in that alignment.
Mm-hmm.
And also keeping myself in high vibration helps me to be connected to source. Yeah, that's all I can think of right now.
Well, you mentioned earlier that it requires a quiet mind. And my observation is, especially in this modern world of technology, and perhaps maybe the younger generation too, they almost seem afraid to hear their own thoughts. there's always earbuds in there. They're always in their phone. And sure, I use my phone way too much myself too. But, I'll be out running in a beautiful park on a sunny spring day. And, I'm just throwing rose petals along, chanting home while I run. And here comes somebody walking in the middle of nature with nothing around, either with their Bluetooth earbuds, talking on the phone, or have the earbuds in instead of listening to the birds. I honestly think that people are afraid to hear their own thoughts, and so probably when they finally do get their earbuds out, all of a sudden the aggressive voice of the ego is, come on now, get this done, and go to blah blah blah. So, and then they put their earbuds back in, and they can't hear that. But yeah, I really recommend that. It's funny because I'm sitting here with earbuds in right now doing this, but I'm doing it with purpose. And yeah, take time to quiet your own mind.
Absolutely. It is so true. Quiet your own mind. But I ask this question: what is underneath people not wanting to hear their own mind? Certainly, there's probably hundreds of thousands of reasons, but I would be willing to bet a good portion of the people, it has to do with self-esteem, or I'm not good enough. What if I were to hear what's going on? And then for others, they're just too busy, or it's become a habit, or it's conditioning, because of the society and how we're brought up. There's so much technology and the busyness of life. So yeah, it can be a real challenge. And it is for me sometimes. So I have my moments of being overwhelmed and listening too much. And then I've gotten into the habit of trying to stop myself, kind of pause, and then get back into quiet. But it's not easy to keep quiet, of course. When you have a job and you're interacting with people, customers you're dealing with, certainly that's not the time to have the quiet time. But if we can create some quiet time, it helps to build a habit when we do it at like the same time every day. But yeah, it's a big challenge for our world to have that quiet time.
Well, and it's interesting. Some people can meditate for an hour, couple hours. Me, I've been doing this for a while, and 15 minutes is my max. And still, so even as long as I've been doing, you still get those, you're sitting there quiet, and all of a sudden this judgmental thought just comes on. Don't forget the grocery store later on, blah, 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 and so especially if you're just beginning, I mean, you can pretty much expect that, what we call monkey mind, to start shouting all these crazy things. And at some point, we just have to not latch on to them. So just kind of watch them go by and honor them for what they, but I'm not interested. I'm sorry. Just keep going. And some people are better at it than others, but it does take practice.
It does take practice. And you read my mind. If we can have, while we're meditating, especially the people who are just beginning, to recognize that thoughts will come. And if you can just kind of let them float by, and if we can do our best to not judge, maybe I'm not meditating right. I have thoughts. Well, they are meditating right. It's just thoughts naturally will come. And even for me, and for you, we've been doing it for so long, thoughts will occasionally come. And over time, there are less and less thoughts. But at the beginning, when people can just be okay and not resist those thoughts coming, that'll help.
And you mentioned this earlier too. So let's say you're sitting there with a quiet mind, meditating or just hanging out, and after you do it for a while, you do realize which one is the voice of the spirit or which is one of the ego. The spirit is always gentle, warm, loving, and just quiet, and the ego is always shouting or angry or pushing, that type of thing. And once you understand that, you know which one to pay attention to.
Absolutely. And that's, again, a little bit of practice. Mm-hmm. And again, we go back to that concept of awareness and mindfulness. So whether we are in meditation or even in our day-to-day life during the day, hearing the ego voice, and all of us have that ego voice come. Many of us have the critical voice, which is ego. But if we can be in a place of awareness, oh, there's that thought again. And then what are we going to do about it? Well, maybe we've been working on maybe we're doing some inner work. And well, like for example, when I was growing up, when I was a kid, and even into my early 20s, a common phrase I would say is, I am stupid. Oh, that was stupid, Katie. I used to call myself Katie. That was stupid. So thankfully, I became aware. I mean, it was such a habit, but thankfully I became aware of that. And I replaced it with, I am human, I made a mistake, and I'm still okay.
Yeah.
And so I've carried that into my future. And I can't even remember the last time I said something derogatory like that to myself. And we all make mistakes, but if we can be in awareness of our self-talk and then replace it with something positive. And also one more thing is to just recognize maybe that self-talk is a red flag for us to work on something.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We need to work on something and heal whatever it is. So.
Wow, that is just awesome, wonderful advice. I know what I wanted to ask you. I have had guests on the show and people I know. It seems that in the world, anxiety can be debilitating. I've had 2 or 3 guests on there have had to overcome anxiety that was so bad that they almost couldn't function. Do you have clients or what would you suggest to somebody who is having deep anxiety, how to overcome it?
I actually haven't had clients who've had that extreme of anxiety, but I have had some clients who do have anxiety. And, in the coaching realm, as you well know, being a life coach yourself, we need to know, and we do know the difference between the anxiety that can be dealt with during a coaching versus our ability, our not being in the capacity of being a psychotherapist. And so, of course, if the client has too much anxiety, I will do what I can to calm them down and assure them and, but also recommend that they consider perhaps getting some professional help.
Yes.
It depends on where they are on the spectrum. So I would say really, what can we do with anxiety? I can speak from my own personal experience as a kid. There was a lot of anxiety, and it's from having negative self-talk. So if it's someone who isn't at the extreme, who really could use psychotherapy support, but maybe someone I'm just coaching, I would recommend that we just be really aware of our self-talk and ask ourselves, is it really true? The work of Byron Katie is very powerful, where the one technique is to just ask yourself, is this really true? So for example, maybe a mother has such anxiety of her teenage daughter. She's worried if her teenage daughter is safe. And she's so worried all the time, has so much anxiety. But if she can pause and ask herself, is this anxiety really warranted? Then she can stop and say, or is it really true? Well, she doesn't really witness her child being abused. So this is kind of a reality check. So the work of Byron Katie is powerful. The other suggestion I would have is to learn some simple exercises for self-soothing. Breathing exercises are so powerful for that. Breathing and being in awareness of breath takes you in the present moment, and it also gives you something to focus on, and that can help reduce the anxiety. It doesn't solve it, but what if, we all need a coping mechanism. We just need to have something to reduce that anxiety. And then if a person has the courage, I would encourage them to then examine what's behind that anxiety. Do your inner work. Be willing to take a look with self-compassion to see what is the cause of that anxiety. And be honest with yourself. If you can be honest with yourself, have self-compassion, have that awareness, and then perhaps you need a friend, or perhaps you need a psychotherapist. Perhaps you only need a coach. And also to have the self-soothing techniques. Answer, but
psychotherapy actually has quite a connection to spirituality. A Course in Miracles actually has a supplemental publication. I can't remember the exact term, but it's has psychotherapy in the title of it. So yeah, there's a lot to that. Wow. I do want to ask you the question that I ask most of my guests here ever since I started this show. It's kind of the main mission. Why do you think that now, more than ever, the people of the world are awakening to all things spiritual, metaphysical, and enlightening? Why now?
Why now? Good question. My perception is this. I know that we are going through massive evolutionary leap. And this happens from time to time for humanity and also Mother Earth. I can't really answer the question, why now, other than addressing it like this. It is the natural order of life to always expand. Mm-hmm. Source or God, the universe, whatever name we call this, the Lord, Father, the Creator, it's the dear source has only one thing, and that is expansion and creation. And so it's the natural order of life, whether it's the Mother Earth or humanity, or each one of us individually, to grow and expand. And so we have over thousands of years being on this planet. Humanity is now up for another evolutionary leap. And we are physically going from the Pisces age, which is more with competition and the sense of separation and male dominance, thinking men and women are not equal, aggression, war. We're getting away from that. And right now in the midst, right in between, is the very turmoil we're going through, but it's leading us into the new age of Aquarius, which is the age of love and collaboration, peace and kindness and harmony, higher vibrations. And so it really is just a matter of the consciousness rising. So from my perspective, I think this is happening now because it's meant to.
Well, and your book certainly talks about this. This is great, humanity's cry for change. Another thing I read in there, I'm curious about, tell us about the 100th monkey effect.
That is so fascinating. Back in the late 1950s, some scientists were out in an island in Japan, and they noticed the behavior of certain monkeys, that they would take a certain fruit, and I apologize, I don't remember now what it is, but they would take this fruit and give it to the monkeys, and it was really dirty. They did this intentionally. Well, one monkey was very smart and decided to wash it, and through this, the other monkeys realized, they can have this fruit. All they have to do is wash it. And so on that island, physically, the monkeys were able to model to each other to wash this fruit, and then they can eat it.
Yeah.
The interesting phenomena, though, Karl, is sometime later, it was discovered several islands far, far away, much farther than a monkey could swim. Those monkeys started doing the same behavior. They had this fruit which was dirty, and they exhibited the same behavior. So this is an incredible example of the interconnection of life. Mm-hmm. How could that have been possible on a physical level? Well, it wasn't. but it was possible on a different level. So the 100th monkey effect basically says that when critical mass is reached, when a certain point is reached, it's called critical mass, then the energy then radiates out to everyone else in a way that makes that positive effect. So I have hope that humanity will shift because so many people are awakening. And as we reach that critical mass, it's going to make a big shift on the whole planet through that 100th monkey effect.
So the divine matrix connects all, whether you're a monkey or a human.
Yes.
And so what people like you and I and all the light workers of the world, we're in effect doing, let's say, 100 million monkey effect, or there's 8 billion people. Let's hope we do have an 8 billion monkey effects.
Yes, I know. I love that. It's so true.
Wow.
Absolutely.
Yeah. This is amazing. We are talking to Kate Heartsong. She is a confidence coach. She has an amazing book called Humanity's Cry for Change. And what was the other one that was called, your book?
Deeply, We Are One.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, I would like to find out how can people connect with you? What's your website, etc.?
Sure. People can connect with me, and I love hearing from people, comments or questions. You can find me on my website, joyfulradiance.com. It's JOYFULRADIANC, Joyful Radiance. And on there, if you'd like to learn more about some future offerings, I have a workshop coming up in the fall. Just feel free to opt in. You'll get a monthly newsletter, very uplifting, very hopeful. Mm-hmm. And also there's 2 heartwarming meditations on that. And also information on my books are on the site.
Yeah. And are you back out doing speaking engagements now?
I'm going to be starting that here before long. Yes. Okay. So, yeah, I haven't booked any in-person speaking engagements yet for a while with the pandemic and all, but I'll be doing that probably later this year.
Awesome. That is just great. Well, Kate Heartsong, thank you so much for being on World Awakenings, a fast track to enlightenment. And again, I recommend everybody to read her fabulous book, Humanity's Cry for Change. It is in complete resonance with unconditional love, truth, and light. And thank you for writing that.
Oh, you are so welcome. And thank you, Spirit, for having me as a messenger on that. And it's so delightful to be here on your show. Thank you.
This has been another episode of World Awakenings, the fast track to enlightenment with host Karl Gruber, a certified law of attraction life coach. We welcome you to tune in to each and every episode of World Awakenings as we open your mind, your heart, and your eyes to the fact that the world's population is now, more than ever, awakening to the truth of all things spiritual, metaphysical, and enlightening, and just how much they play an all-important role in our moment-to-moment daily life. Much love and light to you, my friend, and thank you for tuning into World Awakenings.